Hi, I'm Richmond Wong, a PhD candidate at the UC Berkeley School of Information. Today I'm presenting Infrastructural Speculations on behalf of my co-authors Vera Hovenskaya, Sarah Fox, Nick Merrill, and Phoebe Sangers. In our paper, we ask how speculative design can be used to more explicitly center and raise questions about the broader social, technical, and political worlds in which speculative artifacts exist. To do so, we draw connections between speculative design and infrastructure studies, which offers a set of lenses to help ask questions about ongoing relationships and practices needed to maintain and support systems. We present a set of design tactics to help speculative design researchers make use of the analytical lenses from infrastructure studies. The HCI community has taken up practices of speculation, such as critical design, speculative design, and design fiction, to interrogate emerging technologies. In these techniques, researchers design conceptual artifacts and experiences to evoke alternative socio-technical worlds, to explore the possibility of different social values, norms, behaviors, and material configurations. These practices often focus on creating a speculative product or artifact. For instance, in prior work by several of the authors, we created fictional products, including a workplace smart toilet that tracks menstrual cycles and other health information. This is shown in a fictional product catalog, allowing the viewer to easily think about questions related directly to use. What might it be like if you had to use or interact with this product? However, other types of questions that we might want to ask remain more implicit, particularly those not about immediate use. For example, how does this smart toilet impact janitorial and custodial labor needed to maintain it? What differential experiences might arise from its long-term use? What regulatory frameworks may emerge around new types of data collection? These questions may not be readily apparent just through the presentation of a speculative artifact alone, as they happen in the artifact's background. As designers increasingly use modes of speculation to interrogate questions of broad societal concern, such as climate change, the role of big tech in political radicalization, or widening income inequalities, there is a need to adapt the speculative design toolbox to include approaches that explicitly focus beyond immediate moments of use, to explore the broad and disparate impact of technologies, as well as the maintenance and repair labor required to keep them working. And while an inquisitive designer or viewer might come to these questions on their own, we want to provide some scaffolding for designers who wish to explicitly consider these types of questions through their speculative designs. To help us shape our approach, we use the concept of Lifeworlds. In philosophy, anthropology, and in some prior HCI literature, Lifeworlds are used to refer to the social context and experiences that a user has. We build on this, presenting the idea of projected life worlds, or the things that must be true, common sense, and taken for granted in order for the design to work. In speculative design, the life worlds of a potential future or alternative world are projected by a design artifact. However, we find that these projected life worlds are often implicit. Attention is often drawn most immediately to the speculative design artifact in the foreground, leaving the life world implicit in the background. However, one might be interested in exploring issues that occur in a speculative product's life world, beyond the artifact and its immediate use. This requires shifting our analytical lens to think about and fill in projected life worlds more explicitly. We turn to literature from infrastructure studies to help us make this shift in our focus. Indeed, HCI's study of technologies has broadened beyond the immediate user-system relationship. Beyond questions of immediate use, HCI researchers have also begun to examine practices of ongoing maintenance and repair labor, technology policy issues, and political and economic conditions. One set of analytical lenses that scholars have drawn on to ask these questions includes research from science and technology studies on infrastructures. Briefly, infrastructures are socio-technical. They include technological components as well as the social institutions and practices that make them durable, such as standard setting, maintenance, and repair. Infrastructures support particular forms of human actions while complicating others. For example, the electrical grid is built using technologies like power plants, substations, and dams. But it relies on social institutions, such as power companies and regulatory agencies, that shape and maintain it. Yet, people's access to and experience of electrical power is variable. Infrastructures might seem hidden from view, seemingly operating in the background. However, we can see and understand these infrastructures if we shape our analytical lenses to help bring these arrangements and practices to the forefront. We reflect on the idea that speculative design is already concerned with infrastructural questions. However, these concerns tend to remain implicit, as we often focus on depicting the artifact and leave the life worlds of the artifact implicit. Using insights from infrastructure studies and reviewing existing speculative design work, we present a set of design tactics to help design researchers bring life worlds into more explicit focus. In the paper, we describe 8 design tactics for creating infrastructural speculations. These tactics aim to help designers consciously and purposefully place and reflect on the role of infrastructures in their speculative work. Each tactic is grounded in a particular insight from infrastructure studies, and each tactic helps to bring a different aspect of the artifact's life world into focus, and I'll highlight 3 of these today. First is placing the same speculative artifact in multiple life worlds. This builds on the concept of infrastructural inversion, an analytical move to foreground the relationships among people, practices, artifacts, and institutions that normally exist in the background of a situation. Similarly, speculative designs can be crafted in ways to emphasize the importance of the background life world as being just as, if not more important, than the speculative artifact itself. In deploying this tactic, the design researcher takes a single artifact and articulates multiple life worlds in which that artifact might make sense. For example, Pierce's smart product collages redeploy existing consumer IoT cameras in ways that suggest alternative life worlds beyond what is depicted in advertising and marketing materials. Pierce uses metaphors of lamps and curtains to speculate life worlds where IoT cameras have physical on and off switches, curtain shades, and are used like interior lamps for decorative and mood-setting purposes. One can look at these redeployments to ask what other life worlds might make sense for the IoT camera. One might be a life world where IoT cameras are used decoratively and aesthetically like lighting today. Another might be a life world where people adopt but mistrust their devices. Here they might use add-ons that subvert surveillance, such as lens covers, electrical on-off switches, and wireless jammers. This tactic decenters the speculative artifact as the main unit of analysis, and instead brings our attention to the importance of the life world. By explicitly portraying multiple alternative life worlds, design researchers can interrogate how the social meaning of a technology is co-constructed between the artifact and its life world. The diversity of life worlds depicted through this tactic also sheds light on the multiplicity of our present reality. Within the world that we inhabit, technologies exist in multiple contexts and may have multiple social meanings. A second tactic is to focus life world descriptions on stakeholders beyond users and relationships beyond use. This builds on infrastructures research that focuses on the practices required to support socio-technical systems, such as maintaining, repairing, managing, selling, regulating, or dismantling systems. This connects with existing HCI design work that looks at other types of relationships between humans and systems beyond that of use. This tactic then focuses on uses beyond use. For example, Steed's Toaster for Life presents a speculative networked toaster with sustainable attributes, including the ability to repair, upgrade, customize, recycle, and track component parts. The design fiction foregrounds a set of relationships and practices with the toaster that go beyond use. The toaster's modularity centers repair and maintenance practices as a key mode of interacting with the toaster. The fiction also points to a broader set of stakeholders who interact with the toaster through practices of recycling, fabrication, and tracking of the toaster's components throughout its life cycle. This tactic can be used to explore such questions around the multifaceted relationships and practices related to speculative artifacts. What forms of work might be necessary to maintain and sustain a system across time? Who does this work and how is it valued? The last design tactic I'll discuss is to create mundane artifacts or organizations whose disturbing effects are due to the systems of power and institutions within which they are embedded. So this comes from an understanding that new technologies are deployed in relation to existing institutions and systems of power. This tactic contrasts with speculative exercises designing intentionally evil technologies. Rather than the evilness of a technology coming from the malicious intent of its designers, the evilness arises from the systems of power in which the technology is embedded or adopted. For example, a design fiction from my prior work depicts an organization rather than a product. This organizational fiction depicts UX designers at a company, Intercube. They attempt to surface and address problematic social values related to a harmful use of their company's platform. But they are stymied by their company management's desire to not lose a contract with a particular client. These UX workers are later replaced by Anchorton contractors, or ethics strikebreakers, who do the problematic work instead. The negative outcomes from this scenario do not directly arise from a designer's evil intent, nor from a problematic technical system. Rather, the negative outcomes stem from the organization's arrangement of power and the encompassing structures of financial reward. This tactic calls attention to systems of power and inequality of the past and present. It calls on us as design researchers to grapple with how those systems might persist in the futures that we imagine. Notably, this tactic is not about creating grand future dystopias. Instead, it seeks to recognize the current and past dystopias that people face in their everyday lives, surface the systems of power that recreate those dystopias, and imagine how those might be reconfigured in the future. This tactic examines how infrastructures enable or constrain action in ways that can first seem subtle but cause enduring large-scale effects. This helps a design researcher explore how through forms of institutional power, technologies can constrain or shape action in uneven ways. So each of the infrastructural speculation design tactics help foreground a different aspect of a projected life world. Together, the tactics we present provide strategies for thinking beyond initial moments of design and use. They open up a broader set of stakeholders, practices, institutions, and related systems for speculative inquiry. The tactics help shift our focus from immediate uses of artifacts to the broader life worlds in which they sit. By making different aspects of the life worlds more explicit, the tactics can help designers shift how they see a speculative artifact and its relationship to the life world. I'll highlight two of these shifts here. First, we can shift from thinking about whether a system is working or broken to looking at ongoing practices and relations around a system. Infrastructures are never universally working or broken on their own. Rather, infrastructures may work for some but not for others. Labor and work are required to make an infrastructure function at a low level. The design tactics draw attention to these relationships and practices surrounding technical artifacts. How might a technical artifact work partially for some but not for others? What practices and relationships might be necessary for a system to function? The focus on everyday practices means that we can think about the multiple ways people relate to technologies, in both beneficial and harmful ways. People encounter technologies in the mundanity of everyday life, and new technologies get adopted and appropriated by or adopted into existing institutions and systems of power. This is different than dystopian speculations of the future, which tend to flatten experiences. Everyone has a harmful experience. Moreover, dystopic speculations have been critiqued by scholars such as Oliveira and Martins, Sondergaard-Hansen, and Tonkinwise for hiding questions of race, class, and gender, and for pushing societal harms into an imagined future, not recognizing how people in the present already experience injustice and suffering. Rather than erasing differences, infrastructural speculations draw attention to differences in the imaginaries, institutions, and power structures that support and enforce them. While speculative designs imply a life world surrounding the artifact, infrastructural speculations refocus design researchers' explicit attention to the careful crafting and analysis of the life world itself. Drawing on concepts of infrastructures, the design tactics we present offer a variety of strategies for refocusing attention on the life worlds that tend to operate in the background of a speculative design. This brings into focus practices and relations beyond use, multiplicity of uses and experiences, and the long-standing power that infrastructural systems have to classify, sort, and affect human experiences. Infrastructural speculations are of pertinent importance as designers increasingly use modes of speculation to interrogate questions of broad societal concern beyond moments of immediate invention and design and beyond moments of individuals' use. Thank you.